This video is all about overworked and underappreciated areas of your body. Places in your body where some fairly serious problems can arise solely due to the workload that the tissues are under and a lack of awareness about self-care and maintenance. And I'm going to be showing you 3 simple daily practices that you can use to sidestep problems in the future and help yourself to feel better and function optimally in just minutes a day. Let's get into this. The first area we're going to talk about is the thumb, and specifically the carpometacarpal joint of the thumb, which is located right here. Now, this is one of the most common places where people develop osteoarthritis. This can be both incredibly painful and extremely debilitating. It can limit a person's ability to grasp and hold objects, to write, to type, to feed themselves, to open doors, and many other activities of daily living. And the reason for this is simple. See, we have all of these big, powerful muscles here in an area of the hand called the thenar eminence that are responsible for drawing the thumb towards the midline of the body, like this. And that's how we usually use our thumbs. Over time, doing that motion over and over and over again, unopposed, meaning you're never moving in the opposite direction, can lead to structural changes in the hand where the thumb actually draws in on the hand like this. In the early stages, what you have going on here is shortening of the connective tissue and the muscles that cross the flexor side of the thumb. In later stages, what you have is structural degenerative changes inside of the joint itself, which can lock the thumb permanently in that flexed position, and a person at this stage will be physically unable to flatten out their hand like this. And that's why daily practice number 1 is opening your thumbs. To perform the thumb opener, you're going to extend the hand of the side that you're stretching out in front of you with the fingers spread wide. You're then going to take the opposing hand and grasp the outstretched thumb as if you were shaking hands with it. Notice all 4 fingers wrap underneath the thumb, opposing thumb wraps over the top. From there, what you're going to do is extend the arm of the side that you're stretching straight out in front of you, locking the elbow. Opposing hand is holding the thumb in place, making sure that that distal joint does not flex. Everything is held in an open, extended position. With that outstretched arm, you're going to slowly begin rotating the wrist and hand in this direction. Opposing hand, all it has to do is hold the thumb in place, and that'll allow you to slowly and gently open up all of those flexor and adductor muscles on the palm side of the thumb. Stretching with all the power coming from the outstretched arm gives you a tremendous amount of control over the stretch. You're not yanking with this hand, you're just slowly pushing away with your outstretched arm. Keep the other fingers spread wide as you go through this motion, and you're going to get a stretch across those muscles as well. You're going to hold that stretch for 25 to 30 seconds, then switch over to the opposite side and repeat. The next area that we're going to talk about is the pelvic floor. Now, this is a region of the body that nobody thinks about, especially guys, until they start developing problems in the area. But the pelvic floor is a critically important sling of muscles that runs right along the base of your pelvis, and it's involved in everything from supporting your internal organs to stabilizing your body. Every time you go to the bathroom, your pelvic floor is involved, and it plays a critical role in sexual sensation. The most common problem when a person has pelvic floor dysfunction is chronic constipation. But people also regularly experience problems with urinary incontinence, starting or stopping the flow of urine. Other common symptoms include lower back pain, hip pain, pelvic pain, pain in the genitals, and women often experience pain during sex. Men can experience pain during ejaculation. These muscles are working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and I want to show you one simple thing that you can do to provide some much needed TLC to this often neglected part of your body. Self-myofascial release is a technique that's become incredibly popular over the last 10 years or so, and we're at the point now where you could go into almost any commercial gym in the world and you're going to find somebody using one of those long, slim foam rollers to release the muscles in their legs or their back or some other part of their body. And we can use that same technique to release tight muscles in the pelvic floor. The problem is that those long foam rollers don't really lend themselves to getting at the tissues in the pelvic outlet. And that's where having something like a small rubber ball or a child-sized soccer ball works really, really well. One thing that I do recommend for this technique is partially deflating the ball. So this ball is only pumped up to about 70 or 80%. This helps to give a nice diffused pressure across the area with no concentrated pressure in any one area. We want to make sure that we're not pressing on the delicate nerve bundle that's down in that region. So once you've got the ball and you've got it partially deflated, you're just going to place it directly under your rear end, and the area that you're aiming for specifically is called the perineum. This is the 1 to 2 inch patch of skin at the tail end of the genitals, just in front of the anus. You want to make sure that your feet are flat on the floor, you're well supported, and then from there, once you've got the ball in the right spot, you're just going to breathe diaphragmatically into this lower portion of your belly and focus on, with each exhalation, softening the tissue in the pelvic floor and allowing that ball to just gently ease into that pelvic outlet. And when you're first starting out, I do recommend a couple of things. Number one, start with a low amount of time. If that tissue is really sensitive for you, you might just do 10 or 15 seconds of this for the first few days or the first week as you begin to soften that area. The other thing that's really helpful, especially when you're starting out, is to start out on a cushioned surface. This can help take some of the pressure off of that sensitive tissue. As time goes by, you want to slowly build up your time, and for general maintenance of the pelvic floor, I recommend about 60 seconds a day with that slow belly breathing, focusing on relaxing more and more with each exhalation. The third and final area that we have to talk about is the ball of your foot, and specifically the lumbricals and other little intrinsic muscles that form the support network in this region. Now, like the muscles in the thumb that we talked about earlier, these muscles in the feet have a tendency to shrink up and contract in response to being trapped inside of physiologically incompatible footwear for extended periods of time. Unfortunately, this shrinkage of those intrinsic muscles results in alterations in your physical structure and your ability to function normally. So take a look at this 5-year-old child's foot. This is a normal foot, and you can see that the bones along the inside edge of the foot line up directly with the big toe. The bones on the outside edge of the foot line up directly with the small toe. There are normal gaps and spaces in between all of the toes, and all the toes point straight ahead. You will find very few adult feet that look like this. And so what we're going to do for strategy number 3 is to use a little myofascial release ball to break up some of the adhesions, the scar tissue that tends to build up in those intrinsic muscles, and release that area so that your foot can reassume its normal structure and begin to function optimally. This is the NeuroBall. It's a fantastic tool. I've talked about it several times on this channel because it has so many different applications. One of the things that some people don't realize is that when you pry that NeuroBall open, there is a second myofascial release ball that's much smaller hidden in that inside compartment. And this smaller ball is perfect for releasing those intrinsic muscles in the foot. So what you're going to do is place that ball on the ground, and the area that we're going to be aiming for is essentially the gaps in between the toes. So if you trace the toes down here, you're running right along the long bones of the foot, along all 5 toes, and we're going to be aiming for the soft areas in between those toes, making sure that we're not putting hard pressure on the bones. So I like to start in the space between the first toe and the second toe, and you'll see these knuckles pop up and actually start protruding as you create a gap in between that area by pressing on the ball. Now you can do a very small back and forth on that. You only need about 10 or 15 seconds, and then I move on to the next one, and now you can see those 2 knuckles popping up and protruding, and I'll just go 10 or 15 seconds. If rolling is too much for you, for a lot of people it will be too much, you can just put pressure directly on it and just hang out there for 10 or 15 seconds. I'll then move on to the next spot, and now you can see these knuckles popping up and protruding. 10 to 15 seconds there. And finally, you can see that pinky toe, and you see the gap forming here, which is something that my foot really needs, is to create more space between the 4th and 5th toes. So for me, I find that that tissue in that little space there tends to get really tight and sensitive, and this release is very helpful for me. So these ones are not bad for me. You can see that I have good spaces in those areas, but I tend to spend a lot more time on the gap between the 3rd and 4th and the 4th and 5th. And so this is a technique that I use every single day. Like I said, for general maintenance, 10 to 15 seconds between each toe. If you have an area that is more restricted, in my case it's here, I spend about 30 to 45 seconds there. And just like that, you've got 3 simple strategies that can help you to feel better and function better in just 2 to 3 minutes a day. Now, if you want to pick up any of the specialty tools that I used in this video, whether it's the Cooch ball to release the muscles in the pelvic floor, or that neuro ball, I'll put links for both of those in the description down below this video. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up button before you head out of here. Have the happiest of New Year's, and I'll see you all next week.